screen, it is still patch 7.13. Expecting we will jump onto 7.14 and see all the Kane and Cho'Gath shenanigans next week. But for today and tomorrow at the Gangnam Stadium, it will be patch 7.13.
All right, well, Rek'Sai also going to be banned away here by Samsung. And this is one that, again, Haru just played this in his last match 2 days ago, but they want to take that one off the board, and the Galio will also be removed.
Yeah, Lee Sin, Zac, and Rek'Sai is what he's shown on stage so far, so 2 of those already banned.
I mean, to be fair, the Rek'Sai is obviously a major comfort for Beyond, so if they get something like the Elise through the draft, they could take that for Haru, and they don't want the Rek'Sai in the hands of the MVP jungler.
I mean, you just look at the math. He's got 3 game wins on Rek'Sai. They've only won 5 games, so, yep. Smart ban away. And speaking of smart ban aways, look at this one, Achilles.
Yeah.
We got the Braum ban, and Braum first pick has been the meta for Samsung recently. 7-2 for Core JJ, almost exclusively playing Braum, so that's taken away. It leaves Elise as the strongest jungler pick available if you don't want to go for a true tank, and Haru has always tried to be Peanut-esque and being a battle ward, so might see some aggression out of Haru for the first time this season on the Elise.
Which is so weird to hear. But Kraka is going to be picked up on the other side, as well as the Xayah very early on for Maha has been favoring that pick quite a bit lately.
Oh, speaking of favorite picks.
Oh, yeah.
It's available.
All right. Well, he put on quite a show for us with that Varus last time out.
And the fun thing is that usually you see Varus picked and the Resident Sleepers start to fill up the chat. But this is a guy who has played 14 games and is 12-2 on Varus in the summer season. So it has been his staple pick. And okay, something new for Core JJ. Rakan has not been a prioritized pick for him. Largely has been playing the range supports, Braum and Tahm Kench recently for the melees, but he's going to be going for a strong initiator in the Rakan. Seeing Rakan out of Samsung. Let's see if they can put this to good use.
All right, well, Orianna coming through here for Ian, perhaps in preparation for something like that Cassiopeia coming out from Crown. See what he's going to bring out this time around. Talia will be the first ban in the second half for MVP, so just trying to get Crown off of his comfort picks that he's been showing lately.
What do you do with the Cassiopeia? Do you just ban Cassiopeia even though Orianna is a strong matchup into Cassiopeia? That's kind of the query I have for MVP. Syndra is also available. You cannot ban both of them. And while Syndra versus Ori and Cassia versus Ori are swingable matchups, getting Orianna the most comfort possible is probably what MVP wants to do. Ian has not found success on Orianna once in the summer season. 0-5 for one of his old staple blind picks. And speaking of the Syndra, did not take Syndra when available. Achilles says a lot of these mid laners are moving away from Syndra recently.
Yeah. Jack's banned away here from Samsung, and the Kled will be taken off the board as well. So trying to upset QV's champion pool in that top side of the map. But something, along the lines of the Jace is still available here for either team.
Jarvan as a top lane pick, also available. Big favorite for QV. MVP are looking for support and top lane as their final picks. Not expecting there to be a top lane Gragas. Largely is a Marin only pick, and even he has not been playing it recently. We've done a lot of counter pick support in recent match days, so I would imagine that trend will continue, and if so, Jarvan does loom as one of the most blind pickable top laners, and that's why we do see it taken away. It's a takeaway pick from QV, who is undefeated on Jarvan this season. So Kled banned away. He took Kled into Jarvan on our last match day, and he played the Jarvan himself. So when it comes to comfort for QV, could be something like the Renekton, even though that hasn't been a popular pick in recent match days.
Oh, well, here we go. Nothing too shocking or exciting from the side of Crown. Just going to get that Corki into the mid lane to try to deal with the Orianna. There's into the bot there for Ruler alongside that Rakan. I'm excited to see how Core JJ is going to do with that.
I just want to see, where is QV going? That's what I'm razor focused on. Oh. The standard would be Renekton. Okay, we'll just go lane focus with the Renekton. So pressure draft coming from Samsung, sort of team comp wants to get it done in the mid-game phase. Very strong siege with the Corki and Varus. Rest of the champions actually more orientated towards dive. Samsung Galaxy do have this early game identity in their comp, whereas MVP, whatever they go with last pick, are focused on the scaling.
Final one, running down the clock a little bit. It's going to be Janna, actually.
We're actually just watching LPL earlier, and it was Imp and PYL playing the Twitch and Janna. This time we'll see Xayah and Janna. First Janna in a very long time in Korea. I believe there was maybe one throughout the course of 2016, none in 2017. We know that Gorilla's probably somewhere in the back watching this, being like, maybe I will also play Janna. seeing this pick, but Janna's Xayah strikes me as a very weak 2v2. And while Rakan is not strongest in the laning phase, Varus certainly is.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to have so much poke, and I mean, the shields are going to be there from the Janna to help mitigate that damage coming through from the poke from the piercing arrows, but the power just not really going to be there. So the hopes of winning something like a 2v2 skirmish in that bottom lane just seems very slim for the side of MVP. And I mean, that's before even taking into consideration the skill that these guys have shown off so far in the summer split. So they're already at a disadvantage. Now going to be at an even further one as far as the picks goes.
But if MVP do get to the late game ahead, they have double disengage with Gragas and Janna, and also the shielding from Orianna for a 3-item Xayah to prosper. So options in the late game, but getting there against the top-ranked team as the 10th place team, that is going to be the real problem for MVP.
Yeah, we'll see just how competitive they can make this series, if at all. Because this is a David and Goliath story, as we have already been touting, since 2 days ago when we took a look at this matchup the first time out. So, backs against the wall, MVP need every win they can get if they want to make it out of that relegation zone. Doesn't seem likely, but we'll see what they can piece together here as we load up for game number 1.
수환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Quite vocal here are the MVP fans today.
Maybe they sense something in the air that we've been amiss of. Achilles, always an outside chance that a team that has performed pretty consistently, if you think about it. MVP first split was 6th, second split was 4th. It looked like that trajectory upwards, and it's been such a left turn for them. Sure, they will still get to pay relegation, so even if they are bottom 2 like it looks likely to be, they can still get themselves out of the ultimate pickle of being relegated back to challengers. But it's a once-off best of 3. It is just a single match day. Samsung, you have to imagine, have largely been comfortable to look forward to next week where they have big match days. So seeing how they can do on this particular day.
Well, thank you.
It was just for us, of course.
Yeah. That was only for Papa Smithy and me.
Thanks.
I
needed to pick me up today.
Trying to steal that away.
It was a slow start. It was a Saturday, so, feeling a bit more pep in my step.
Yeah, that definitely turns around my morning. Somebody spat on my shoes on the way to work.
Really?
By accident. The wind kind of took it. And I was just so very upset. And they didn't know what to say. They just looked at me
with horror.
Face, the mouth agape, just like, and I was just like, which is like, it's okay. I went into the Starbucks and cleaned off my shoe. It was disgusting.
What an unfortunate morning.
Yeah, but it's okay because now that guy, he blew us a kiss, so I'm feeling better.
All right.
I'd let him spit on my shoe.
You should find him after and say I needed that.
Oh dear, oh dear.
Well, John and Xayah are going to need all the help they can get in the laning phase as well. Really not too optimistic about Janna's 2v2ing. Item-wise, Ardent Sensor is in a really strong position, so we might see some Ardent Sensor coming through from the Janna in this game. Redemption also later on. But as you can see, level 2 has been hit, and the laning phase doesn't get much better for Xayah and Janna till much later in the game. So knowing that, they didn't go into this 2v2 being like, oh yeah, going to out 2v2 them. Maybe you have to hold that thought as Haru's on the invade.
Yeah, will be spotted up by this ward. Beyond can just go ahead and start kiting his way back. See how much he wants to contest for this, because Juve has already roamed his way over. He's spotted out now. It seems like MVP might just have to give this one up. He can win the Smite Ward, not going to happen. Haru does have that execute damage off the Q, so comes away with that nice little invade. Only cost Juve a little bit of time out of lane, but you can see he is holding up quite nicely as far as the CS is concerned still.
And we were complimenting Longzhu for their level 1 plans. Look at this one, where Samsung had 2 pushing lanes, invaded with their jungler who out-duels Beyond on the Gragas and take away a buff. Really smart stuff from them and the sort of practice we would expect from a top team.
Just the one turret shot coming through for JJ. Just trying to get a little bit of harass down.
But just to finish the thought on the Janna, consider that...
Ow.
Stop taking free damage, but he has also gone... Both of them have gone for the Ancient Coin line.
Yeah, this is a rare occurrence. Double Ancient Coin in the bottom lane.
But the moment you lock in Xayah Janna with Coin, you're not actually optimistic about getting out of lane. So I imagine lane swaps around mid lane will be what they want to do. Have those 2v2 in the laning phases. Cuvee gonna find the Gragas.
That flashes away from the body slam. Beyond could still chase forward with his own flag and drag in. Cuvee looking for the trade, finds the first blood. Can he make it out with his life? Is going to be the question.
Oh no!
Slices and dices in under the turret. Beyond gonna take 2 shots. Honestly, that could have been a 1v2, but Cuvee still makes it out alive with the first blood.
Cuvee's a monster. He actually kept the second part of the dash just in case the turret dive follow through came from beyond his mid lane.
Yeah, Ian gonna have to run up. Flash forward from Haru, drags out the flash from the Orianna. Now he's gonna be summonerless in that mid lane, which makes for a very swift revisitation for Haru. We'll see how long it takes him to path back around and try to gank that mid.
Samsung only played 3 games in the postseason, went down to KT Rolstead 3-0 in spring, but the optimism from Cuvee getting solo kills in top lane matchups so frequently after being a tank role player in spring. See moments like that and you think that Samsung maybe can go a lot further than the dominating performance by KT against them last time around, holding on to the second dash just in case the turret dive came through to potentially turn it around and get a double kill. Oh, Cuvee, he's in form.
He really is, and I mean, Cuvee versus Smeb, now that Cuvee has been able to play these more aggressive picks, not just relying on something like tanks, is a very exciting thing to think about.
But you start to wonder, what will the meta look like by the time we hit playoffs? Probably going to be 7-15 by then. Also, the tank meta is going to be back. It doesn't necessarily mean that it'll be 2 tanks in the top lane, but tanks will be even more dominant with Thornmail and other changes. Where that actually ends up, Smeb is one of our most flexible players. He can play carries and tanks equally effectively, and Cuvee defaults to tanks. So interesting to see where we go. There we go. 2016 summer. I believe we had 1 game through all of summer and spring of Janna last year.
Well, the total win rate's almost 50%, so MVP, you know, hoping to trade up as far as that is concerned.
Wait, I just noticed Maha went cleanse. And Max went heal. Just noticed that.
Oh.
Interesting. So no exhaust on the side of MVP, but they do have double displacement. So what you should take here is that clearly Orianna, Jarvan will be going for engage. Mostly everyone else will be about peeling. They still have a heal in bot lane. Does tell you that Max and Maha are going to be best friends forever because the heal is going to be on the Janna. But cleanse, very interesting because that means QSS as a second or third item doesn't need to be purchased.
Yeah, you can delay that one out so it allows for Maha to get those, you know, hyper carry item spikes coming through a bit faster.
You have to kind of give us a pass that we didn't look at the summoner spells for the 80 carry.
I mean, usually we can just kind of assume that, you know, that's just how things are going with the exhaust and the heal. But, yeah, changing things up a little bit.
New meta.
New meta. Here you go. Bring it to your solo queue. They'll love it.
Now, often supports and players in general will watch the LCK and take things away. Remember, this is the 10th place team, and MVP have been creative before in both drafts and itemization.
10th place, it's still innovating. Hell yeah.
I think if you're innovating and in 10th place, it's not called innovation anymore. It's called bad.
Degradation.
Degradating.
Oh dear. Well, Core JJ going on a little bit of a roam. Just going to smack Ian with his feathers.
It's a pretty alpha thing to do if you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
Ian doesn't have Ghost or Flash. Its Ghost is actually back up, but his Flash is still down.
We're going to be pushing through, looking for this one beyond nearby. We'll get the pop-up. Cocoon's going to connect in onto the minion, but Ian is still going to fall. Just had the Ghost to rely on. And he gets snatched up a second kill going over to Samsung. This time snatched by Haru.
Wraparound timing. About a minute and a half left on the Flash, so no ambiguity there. The side of Samsung. Gets them another lead. We already know the pressure advantage was on the side of Samsung. Renekton still pushing in the face of ADD in top. And, well, the pushing might become a turret dive very shortly.
Good. He's going to be spotted out by the control ward, but Haru doesn't give a damn. He's just going to be charging forward, looking for the J4. Flag and drag away. Haru looking for a little bit more. Can see the Cataclysm flash out, perhaps, but Cocoon going to connect right off the backside of that flash. Won't be able to get ADD. Cataclysm comes down right as Cuvee flashes out. So not going to get trapped in.
If Haru had flash there, they would have been able to pick up a kill on Jarvan and get away, I believe. But with no flash, a lot of them to respect and pull away. We'll be able to just push another wave, and you notice ADD doesn't have teleport to get back to lane, so he still will lose out on significant experience and is already 20 CS behind.
Yeah, it's about 20 seconds away from coming back up here, so...
They're actually tracking Core JJ.
They're trying to. Trying to spot him out, Core JJ, wrapping around, will be spotted here. Dashes over the wall.
I didn't know he could get over that particular wall. Length of the battle dance, longer than I expected.
Today I learned.
Of the grand entrance, I should say, sorry.
Now, just going to go rejoining down in the bottom lane, where the poke wars will continue.
And to their credit, in a 2v2,
They're
there
holding
hasn't
up
been
well.
any CS denial. Now, that has been because Samsung were focused on pushing rather than denying necessarily. You can see that the moment it is a 2v2, Xayah and John are not getting any auto attacks in. So it's because Samsung have been pushing, but at the end of the day, you are investment banking as the Xayah going for a 3-item spike, so you'll take the CS if you can get it.
Oh, well, here we go. Yet again, a party in the top lane. By the look of things, Crown has the package available as well. Control ward's still there, and doesn't have the package now. So lost out on it. ADD going to be pushed away from the turret for the moment. We'll see how long they want to stick around here, but Crown is already peeling back.
ADD knows he can't walk up to the brush yet. Haru had already backed away. Thanks for that, Elise.
Just trying to play us a song.
Decent trade taken by MVP and bot lane. I imagine a Blade Caller would have hit. So kind of eyes focused on the heal from the Janna. So different.
She can just, super heal now. She's got the ultimate. She's got summoner spell. Just top everybody up.
And then I imagine it will interact with the extra healing and shielding of an item like Ardent Sensor.
Goes for that grand entrance. Doesn't quite find it, though. But the piercing arrow does connect, so Max is getting chunked down a little bit here, but he's still got a couple biscuits in the inventory.
Yeah, we see Ardent Sensor Redemption. We might actually see some insane healing abilities by Janna, which is not something we would have any meta associated with hers. Here we go.
And entrance yet again. Chain of Corruption coming down. Munson will be tossed out there by Max just to try to zone them back. Ignite ticking away will mitigate a lot of that healing that he was looking for, but for now still going to be quite all right. But might not last too much longer. Haru looking for the wrap around behind the turret.
Diving at Janna has always been a risky escapade, but there is no ultimate available. One less displacement. Q on cooldown. This is the time.
Yeah, now pushing forward. Cocoon not going to connect. Featherstorm goes up from Maha to try to dodge that one out. And now Core JJ in a bad spot. Takes that turret shot. Cataclysm comes through. Dashes in, but the Flag and Drag will take him down, but has ADD overstepped. He's looking for Ruler, but Cube comes in, and he's not even going to be able to get the tag in for the assist on that kill. He'll just go down as Haru scoops up his second.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't a multiple choice question, Achilles. He certainly had overstepped, was taken down, but Cube
It was rhetorical.
wasn't needed for teleport. Means he's bot lane. They could try to turn onto an Ocean Drake, but not the biggest prize. If Cube was able to cancel and grow what is already a 28 CS lead, that would have been really big for the side of Samsung. Yes, you'll see that Cube is backing away. So in the end, the teleport, not quite as on point as usual.
So, a little bit sloppy there. They do manage to go ahead and trade that one back onto ADD, who is just not really having the best time. Has the Tiamat in the inventory, but it's going up against the Black Cleaver of Cube.
A big minion wave pushing into the Jarvan, so we'll get a significant amount of experience pushing his way, and actually, the creeps denied away from Cube because of the big wave, killing the wave as the teleports came through. Both of them will get in for experience on the cannon minion at least. But yeah, the Black Cleaver as a one-item power spike is not to be trifled with. And when you see the Aether Wisp, it seems like we were on the money with the very early Ardent Sensor coming in, most likely.
Well, you were on the money. I didn't really contribute to that one.
I like to share the glory. Not everyone was watching when I made that prediction. You could have just taken it, Achilles.
That would be disingenuous.
Fair.
Credits due, Papa Smithy.
Well, I'm going to give Crown credit for a pretty sick item purchase. Trinity Force is complete at 13 minutes. So
Yeah,
80
been,
carry Corki around the same time, pick up one.
I mean, he's been farming up a storm. Averaging that 10 per minute at the moment, and is 21 ahead of Ian, who is having a very rough time. Meryl and Omicron not going to be helping out a whole lot in these trades.
Haru been extensively on the front foot. If you told me this was spring season, I would believe you, given that Haru has been playing a lot like he was in spring, and this is what was lost with Ambition becoming the starter this season. Feel with tanks solidifying themselves in the meta. Next batch, it feels like Ambition will be very happy, but when you get these rare Elise games, Haru does look like his old self.
Yeah, not quite the Rengar meta that he would like. But we do see Kha'Zix every now and then, so that's an aggressive pick that we could see.
Haru's such an interesting one, though, Achilles, because he really did underperform in that series against KT, you'll remember, after being a superstar. Yeah. He was top 5 regular season MVP and then was pretty anonymous when Score was having his way with the jungle in the series. So they will be starting, you'd imagine, with ambition and his experience this time around when we get to the postseason. But at Worlds, and when the meta shifts, they do have Haru as a secondary weapon. Lots of vision available here. A lot of information available for MVP. Bot lane, though.
Oh, yeah. Ruler going to get jumped on. Takes quite a bit of damage. Blade Caller does get the root, but no one's there to really follow up with the damage. Will get popped up, but Crown, arriving off the backside of that TP, is able to scoop up the first kill of the fight. Now looking for a second one. Goes low as the body slam connects in beyond. Desperately trying to finish off this Corki, and with Ian arriving off the backside, Shockwave will not actually connect, and Crown is still alive, but he's not long for this world. Will be taken down as Maha re-enters the fight. Scoops up one for himself. So some sloppiness there from Samsung in that bottom lane. Now Haru up at the top just helps take down ADD yet again, but MVP is going to get some nice alone time with this tier 1.
Yeah, turn on to turrets. Already a bit of work done in top with 3 members. I imagine tempo advantage is for MVP. It's going to be a quick race.
It's going to be a very close one, but it seems like MVP do have it. Yet do knock that down just seconds before Samsung are able to do so. So that gets a bit of gold back here for MVP. Still in a deficit, but is not growing because of that first brick, so just 1.7, 1.8 separating these squads.
And we'll have to evaluate what the fallback is, because we quite often see the first big trades, but what is the secondary objective? Usually, the team on the bot side will try to take Drake, very safe to do. In this case, it won't complete. We're going to see the replay. And what I want you to notice, after the opening salvage, where the grand entrance was super good from Core JJ, is that notice that Crown has flash up this entire time and never uses it. Still has flash up. Watch the Orianna come in, use Shockwave. Crown doesn't flash, he walks out of Shockwave. He still goes on to die, which he was condemned to do one way or the other. But kind of my biggest takeaway, as we missed the last kill there, was that Crown didn't use flash that entire time.
Yeah. Well, has it now, so we'll at least have that slight little reprieve there. But Samsung giving up a couple more kills than they would have liked on that, but Poor JJ doing his damnedest to turn that around. And some very flashy moves. You know, quickness, immediately going in, getting the charm down on everybody, but still was not enough to save the lives of Crown.
I mean, his first competitive game on the Rakan as well. Core JJ.
They both died.
That's true. Core JJ, at the end of the day, you know, that rhymed, that was awkward. But regardless, Core JJ, the thing about him is that he's largely been this laning support. We've known him for his Zyra, we've known him for, in the spring meta especially, the Zyra Lulu and those sort of picks. Nami also excellent. Seeing him on the playmaking initiator supports is a bit of a change. He only played a single game of Thresh, which was a defeat in the summer season. So to see him able to also play Rakan at a high level, again, we talked about Cuve's champion pool. Also seeing Core JJ move with the times is another thing for Samsung, who, again, need to be respected as one of the front runners for Champion Summer.
Yeah. I expect that a lot of that credit has to go over to the coaching staff, especially Trace, as far as Cuvée is concerned, with the top lane, to help him get onto those more aggressive picks. Speaking of aggression, though, Cuvée coming in with the TP. The lockdown takes Beyond and Ian rather low. Cocoon connecting in. Shockwave will come down, but the repel will be there for the dodge, and Ruler is able to scoop up the kill onto the Orianna. Beyond falling swiftly thereafter. The trade one back in onto Haru, but that's about as good as it gets for MVP because they lose Maha. A 3-for-1 in favor of Samsung off the backside of the Drake.
And that's with a compositional advantage for MVP. We're just waiting for the Shockwave. Predictably, Haru, his mechanics still intact from spring season, able to repel. Hula hoop on the ultimate, sniped out by Ruler. Was Orianna to go down first. They'll lose a turret here as well, and that's just the reality of Samsung being a considerably better team than MVP.
Yep, and that's going to be the third tower going down now here for Samsung. All of those outers have fallen, and they are moving that gold lead further forward. A bit angry that they weren't able to get that first brick, it would seem.
You have to also call into question what Janna really achieved in this particular fight. She shows up, is zoned out. Ult misses there. Max doesn't heal because it's not in range of his AD carry. This is with a reason that an AD carry is usually taking the heal Achilles, because 100% of the time, the Janna's not going to be grouped with the AD carry, and Janna did precisely nothing in that fight.
Yeah, I mean, Max was just walking back and forth around that wall, didn't find an avenue of approach. So, they wanted to try something with this Janna pick, and so far, it is not working out.
But what I want to say is it's Janna with heal Ardent Sensor. This Janna is literally basically ball and chain with the AD carry. That's exactly the whole use of Janna. If you spec this way, you can't then go on vision wars while a Drake is being taken, because then you're going against your already situational pick, and if anything, working against your team.
Yeah. Rough stuff here. 4max with this pick coming through. And I mean, he was one of the big catalysts for success for MVP during the spring split with his wacky champion pool coming through. But here in this game, not really showing up for the squad thus far. So the gold lead stretching to 5,500 after that fight for Samsung. At just before 20 minutes, Haru right now trying to get rid of this Rift Herald before the Baron will be spawning in. We'll see if they can finish it off in time. Beyond is nearby.
They've got damage. That's the one thing that Samsung has plenty of, is damage and early spikes. So even with, as you say, the timer fast approaching, easy to pick it up. MVP once again, super on the back foot. Tried some creative things like we said, but just outmatched by Samsung, who've controlled the enemy red side jungle for probably the last 15 minutes.
I mean, it's pretty much been like since the start of the game, really.
Now, you give him about 3 minutes, but the equilibrium ended very quickly, and as you say, it was the first red buff stolen by Haru.
So Beyond, yeah, he's not been having a good time as far as that upper side of the jungle is concerned.
And probably in general,
yeah,
given his team's struggles.
And not even just outside of this game, just the entire split.
Had a bit of a resurgence with the Rek'Sai when the Rek'Sai was changed, and MVP picked up their series victory just before Rift Rivals.
I mean, the only solace MVP can kind of take is that, like, they're like, well, you know, SKT is also kind of fallen from grace right now. It's not just us. Another team that was in the top 4 is looking pretty bad.
But then you really have to ask what the narratives are, because, you know, you can be the guy who says, well, SKT, you know, maybe they're playing under their level, but the rest of the league has gotten better, and MVP would subscribe to that as well. But it's so hard to gauge all these things. We'll know in 2 or 3 years' time. The hindsight is much clearer further in the future, but honestly, that's the biggest puzzler of summer season. It's not SKT's recent form. It's MVP being just so much worse when very little variables changed from the last 2 splits to now.
Yeah. I mean, same exact roster and everything, but somehow the shot calling has changed for
The
this
coaching
team.
staff stayed the same.
They don't know what to do in the game anymore, it seems, so it's very confusing times, you'd have to say.
Head scratches for both squads, for sure. But this game certainly has been pretty straightforward. Haru doesn't even need to use the Rift Herald to take the outer bot lane turret.
I mean, yeah, why not? Just hold on to it. Use it to break an inhibitor turret.
Don't often get that option, do you? But
no, you don't.
When the game is going this direction, it does feel increasingly like that's the way.
I mean, you have those rare times where you can ride the Rift Herald all the way through multiple turrets into the inhibitor turret, but few and far between as far as that is concerned. Flag and Drag does come down from ADD, looking for a bit of a skirmish. We'll throw down the Cataclysm as well. Repel up from Haru, but doesn't really have anywhere to drop in. Tries to kill Maha, almost takes him out. But in the meantime, Samsung are still progressing. Even with the loss of their jungler, they move over. They will knock down that inner turret in mid. Just the final one standing in the top lane. Ghost is going to come out here for Ian, looking for Ruler. Shockwave does connect as to the body slam, and they find the kill in onto the Varus. So this is MVP being proactive. There's no smite available for 17 seconds here from the side of Haru.
That was actually really good, Achilles, because the communication was on point. Ruler had flash in 5 seconds. Did not have it as he went through. Got it as he died. They're going to try and contest the Baron. MVP going for proactive. They thought this is their one chance.
All right, well, TP's coming through. QV arriving, as is Crown, right into the thick of the pit. Goes Samsung, Core JJ getting bobbed down. The smite does come down, and the Baron swings over into MVP's favor. QV looking like he can exit safely on the backside of the fight. His Crown barely avoids that flag and drag with a Valkyrie. Samsung looking for something, looking for some kills off the backside of this to try to deny these Baron buffs coming through, but they're not going to be able to find anything in MVP. Nice decision-making. They come away with a Baron.
And the crowd roared in anticipation of what was looking like a Wombo engage, but everything was up this time. They had the Summoner spell heal up. They had the Howling Gale and the ultimate up from Janna. They had the cask up from the Gragas. They disengaged. They stayed high health. And MVP, they pull off the heist against the run of the game. And suddenly, they're in with a chance.
Yeah. Just have to pop that Rift Herald here into the mid lane before it expires. Not going to get any use out of it, as that turret has already gone down. Samsung will be able to pick up the second Drake of the game here. This double Ocean over for them. Mountain going to be the third on the way.
They wouldn't have thought they needed a backup win condition like an Elder Dragon, but suddenly a heavy dose of reality comes to them. Really big credit to MVP calling that Ruler Splash was still only seconds away. You mistimed that, and the whole point is aborted. But he was on the money there. Ruler didn't have flash. Good assassination from the Orianna. And then putting trust in, well, we drafted this Janna with a purpose. It was looking like they wouldn't get to use disengage because they just would have everything taken around them and there would be no dive attempt. But they were able to start the Baron, disengage, peel Samsung away from it. Great stuff from MVP, the best we've seen from them recently, and yet it might still not mean a game victory.
Yeah, I mean, because the question is, how much can they get done with this Baron buff? For now, it's going to be looking like a siege in onto this mid-tier 1 turret. But even then, it's slow going as far as taking this is concerned. Ruler is firing away, still has plenty of wave clear to offer up. A couple more hits will take this out, if not just the cannon minion by itself. They're pushing in. They will be able to take that out, hold on to that turret with a sliver of HP for now. But it's pretty inevitable that that goes down, but MVP, they need so much more than that to try to claw back this gold deficit that they find themselves in.
Ultimates are back up, so they do have good disengage. Doesn't necessarily mean that the pot shots are easy, and neither Xayah nor Orianna's range attacks are long. As okay, Maha's trying to duel with Crown.
Yeah, does quite a bit of damage to him.
Viewers should remember that Ardent Sensor has kind of gone through a couple of different variants on what the shielding and healing actually results for the AD carry. In this case, it is attack speed and also on-hit magic damage. The on-hit magic damage is always there, but the attack speed actually allows for faster item spikes and timings for Maha on the Xayah than you might expect usual. He is getting around 28% attack speed when a Janna shield comes in, and the AD as well. Okay.
Are going to get popped forward there, has to repel immediately, but must come straight back down. Keep himself safe for the moment. Has to burn out the flash, however.
Baron buff power play so far working out, but someone has to answer Cuvée.
It's 2 turrets here. 3, I believe, actually, with the top lane. Yeah, they had 1 at the start of this. So 3 turrets going over to MVP, bringing the gold lead back down to around 3.2 thousand. Cuvée draws some pressure, but just doesn't have a way of getting in underneath of that inhibitor turret. The recalls there with the Baron buff a bit too fast, so doesn't want to overstay.
The build I mentioned that it seemed like Max was angling for with the Summon and Spell Heal is now fully assembled. Wind Speakers, Summon and Spell Heal, Ardent Sensor, and Redemption. Insane amount of healing. The burst healing here for the Janna is literally just off the charts large. It's something you're going to have to respect because Samsung's comp has very strong poke. Its dive, it's not fantastic. It certainly pales in comparison to Orianna Jarvan when it comes to backline threat. Janna, if she's in position, we've already seen one fight where Max was woefully out of position, but in position, playing standard Janna at the back of a team fight, there is a lot of team fight turnaround in terms of healing available to MVP. Also, look at the item build for Maha. He's pretty close to that Infinity Edge. They're pretty close to Maha potentially ripping through Samsung Galaxy.
Nearly has it as I click of agility. Little space for the pickaxe, still holding on to that refillable potion. Samsung still with a lead, but they cannot afford any more mistakes like the ones that led to that Baron for MVP.
And let's mention
you
also,
have to expect one more mess up like that, and it could be MVP walking away with game 1.
Let's mention also, Kilios, a honorable loss with 2 weeks of the season going really doesn't matter for MVP. They actually need victories. They can't afford to look good in a 2-0 loss like Ever 8 Winners did against Samsung a couple of weeks ago. It's too late for that. We only have a few matches left, so it's a tough ask to say take a match off Samsung, but even a game might be the difference when it comes to some of these very close run-ins. So even though it's asking a lot, they need to start now.
Yeah, I mean, that's the difference of making it out of that relegation zone and then having to be like, okay, well, you know what, we played very well. Maybe we can make it out of the promotion tournament. That's that difference. So every map win that they can get will help them climb back up the standings. Even if they found a win here against Samsung, as crazy as that would be, it still is a very long road ahead if they want to avoid that relegation tournament.
And MVP, they're still behind in gold. They're certainly behind in map control despite picking up those turrets. So definitely not willing to ink anything for MVP, but nice turnaround, some good item timings, specifically from the Janna, are complete. Waiting to see if Infinity Edge can be completed on the next buy, otherwise it won't be available for the Baron fight.
Also, though, I mean, MVP, they don't have the bumpiest road ahead for their final matches.
What are good games for MVP, though? We don't really know the answer to that.
I mean, if they can be competitive here, then that just changed the definition as far as their opposition is concerned. But, you know, here against Samsung, then next week, BBQ. You have to say, one of the, you know, the 8th place team at the moment. And if MVP can be competitive here, then perhaps they could take a win off of BBQ. But then Emerate, they also have to face before the end of the split, Jin Air and Afrika Freaks.
So then things like game score, because they have the absolute worst game score of any team at -18 going into this one. Is -17, -18 going to make a difference? We're not to know. So picking up even a single game, something MVP want to do. But Samsung, to their credit, have been stalled. They have good control wards down. They have good information around the Baron especially, but Drake as well. But MVP have bought a huge reprieve. It was a very big instant gold bounty from the Baron buff. Not necessarily breaking the base, of course, but picking up turrets that were previously inaccessible and bringing the turret lead to just one of Samsung over MVP. There is a chance for MVP when they choose their fight. It won't be around Mountain Drake, though.
Nope, it's going to be going over to Samsung. So that Elder Dragon win condition still very much going to be strong for them if they even need it. Baron has respawned and likely going to be the next point of contention here as they do take out that Mountain Drake just for that added bit of damage to finish off the big purple worm.
Around the Baron, there seems to be the Alamo for MVP. First Baron got them back into the game. Certainly won't be a Baron rush available from MVP with where the map is at, but testing for the Baron's possible. Okay, here we go.
Comes down, Ruler taking quite a bit of damage on the body slam.
Got him.
He's just going to get the lead as Ian scoops up that kill with the shockwave. Core JJ making his way out as best as possible, and Cube just was not here at the TP, but now MVP
same
going to be
spot as
engaging
before,
on this.
same summoners available for the Janna. This is a big point in the game.
But this time around, there is a smite here from the side of Samsung. If Haro can make his way into the pit, Crown going to be poking out from the backside, throwing out those rockets. Up with the repel, has to go in, drops in, but can't get it. It's actually confirmed by Ian, picking up the Baron here for MVP yet again as they keep their hopes alive. 2 members dead on the side of Samsung. Let's see what they can get this time around. It was 3 turrets last time out. They're going to be looking for a lot more.
Somehow it's rinse and repeat. A catch onto Roller got them both of the Barons. This time Roller just a bit too confident. Doesn't have a Tahm Kench, doesn't necessarily have the peel available to him. Rakan much more focused on engage. The end result, good catches from MVP. Once the Cataclysm went down, the Orianna Shockwave was always going to be confirmed, and they're certainly pushing in, and they'll want to break the base with this Baron.
Yeah, minion waves be damned. MVP just looking to force their way through. Do knock down that inner turret here in the mid lane. Just the final one in the bot side standing. And it's going to be those inhibitors under siege while this Baron buff is still there.
You mentioned it during Champion Select in the early parts of the game. There's a lot of MVP fans here today, despite the struggles of the team on a Saturday afternoon.
And the audience is pretty balanced on both sides, compared to the MVP and the Samsung fans. So.
It's certainly not going to be a hot ticket this one, this sort of game where you could walk up on the day and get a seat. And, we were all there. It's 10th versus 1st. But MVP subverted expectations since they came into the league. They were a team that didn't really have a superstar, maybe beyond in summer season of their first season. But since then, it's really been a team effort. Whenever we gave them expectations, which we had to after the 4th place finish, they have struggled. But suddenly, here they are, very competitive against Samsung and with a gold lead. In fact, gold parity, but it feels like a gold lead because the last 10 minutes or so have gone the way of MVP.
That is true. They are the kind of team that just always changes what you expect from them. They come into the league, you're like, I'm not sure how good they're going to do. They get 6th, they almost go to playoffs. You're like, wow, that's really good. They could, maybe they're going to rest around this spot. Then they make it into the top 4. You're like, holy crap, this team can really go towards the top of the standings. And then they bottom out. And now that they're at the bottom, you're like, oh, Samsung's going to stop them. Nope. It's going to be MVP firing back yet again.
Feels more and more like 3rd versus 4th from spring season than the 1st versus 10th it is right now. Still haven't exploded a Nexus. MVP have certainly come close and lost in similar scenarios.
Now they have a gold lead.
They do.
1.2 thousand here in their favor. The only gold lead that MVP has had this entire game has now come into their favor here at about 33 minutes on the clock.
And the Baron buff was the only way they were going to be able to do it. The ability to peel and have the Janna get full value around Baron, because a different game without Baron, talked about Achilles, would have been Corki and Renekton's pushing side lanes, and the 1-3-1 was super powerful from Samsung. But now they have Baron, they have engaged, they have the healing capabilities from Max. MVP have a lot of options, and the items are there for Maha as well.
Samsung now looking to hold on to the space as best as possible. Bottom inhib turret has already taken quite a bit of damage here. So about half will start regenerating as MVP shifts their attention over towards the mid side. This is Samsung Their backs against the wall, something that you would not have anticipated at all given the first 20 minutes of this game.
And given the team comp also, Samsung was strongest in the early to mid game. This is where MVP's comp naturally was going to outscale, but you don't put too much thought into that when you say, hey, outscale against Samsung Galaxy, 10th place versus a first, and you're taking outscale. But so far, so good for MVP after a couple of hiccups in the early game.
Every time I see Ruler push forward like that, trying to chunk out ADD and beyond, I'm just getting flashbacks to these last 2 times that he got caught out. There's no Baron to be taken this time, but it certainly could spill over into those inhib turrets because Ruler is really the wave clear that Samsung have to rely on right now.
And you look at Rakan. What does Rakan really do in a late game team fight when Janna's in the equation? If you can get the knock up on the Janna, that's fine, but she now actually also has the Mikhail's Crucible to go along with all the healing, some more amplification, now a cleanse available. The ultimate, the Monsoon, does so much work against target big engage, and she's usually not going to be grouped in AoE with anyone. She can be further back in the fight, so compositional answer to Rakan's teamfight engage is available on this Janna, so you're starting to make me a believer MVP. That's the weirdest part. MVP have certainly been a thorny one to predict for the longest time, and now, in the most surreal of scenarios, there's a real chance for that.
Well, Max just trying to get all of the active items that he can gather. He picks up that Aegis, possibly, probably looking for that Locket of the Iron Solari, just to have even more shielding available for his squad to keep them all topped up.
Definitely going to be high APM plays and team fights to get them all off correctly.
Turn into a Brood War player suddenly.
It does feel like you'd have to do that. I guess you just early cast the Redemption and then focus on the cleanse.
Yeah. This is the type of scenario where if I was playing, I would forget that I had all of these active items. Somehow I have 4 of them and I don't use any at all.
Well, there was that famous stat about Deathfire Grasp usage, right? Something criminally low. I forget it now. Azael tweeted it out, but it was...
You know, you just buy it because it had a high AP.
I mean, you bought it because that was the item you were supposed to buy, right? You read it in the guide, you saw it in the pro games.
Yeah,
you
Mobile
knew
Fire
what it was
said that
supposed
I
to do.
needed this.
Oh, Deathfire Grasp. Deathfire Touch is just not the same.
I have all the items that the guide says. Why isn't my Vagrant just deleting people?
Now remember, MVP, not known for their side wave management, so they probably really want a team fight, and initiation is not something they do very well.
Yeah, well, Maha is going to get hit up very early on to this fight. Shields coming down here from Max, is going to keep him topped up. Stay alive here for the moment, and Samsung have also been poked out a bit there. Crown down near half HP. This gives MVP the inside track into the mid lane.
Yeah, we've got a minion wave from MVP pushing in top as Samsung have a minion wave in bot lane. So herding them back into the base.
Won't get the wrap around, but MVP just going to go ahead and push over towards that top side of the map. They need to get rid of Maha early on, or at least get rid of something like the explosive cast.
They're going to threaten the dive here with a big wave.
Up, Beyond going in, gets a pop back in onto Ruler. Cataclysm down, Shockwave will connect,
dead
but the Varus has
again.
fallen yet again. Despite both summoner spells being used, he will die, as does this top inhib turret. Now Samsung looking to be under fire, looking to lose this game actually, as ADD goes in yet again with another flag and drag. The Pell up comes down from Haru, he will hit the ground, comes down safely, but MVP are just going to be looking to sweep through the base. Another minion wave on the way as they look to take down another inhibitor.
There's just no threat onto Maha at all because of the Janna. The laning phase, it was rough. The early game was rough as well, but one pick onto Ruler. And MVP, credit, they have not really misplayed since then.
Yeah, Max has, been the ball and chain, as you put it, with Maha constantly sticking beside him. So they have transitioned their style of play. Now MVP, just for insurance sake, are going to start up this Elder Dragon.
Might be a trade though, Achilles. You notice that Samsung, they feel like they have one chance to get to Baron. It's going to be information available to MVP.
They'll be going for this. We'll see if they both decide to stick onto it. Samsung, of course, are going to be looking for the Baron. A couple members from MVP roaming up towards this. But they will not be arriving in time. Elder Dragon does go down, but can they catch Samsung? Or the recalls goes off. Baron Empowered recall says no. So they do make it back. They get a second lease on life for a little bit. This is going to help them deal with these super creep waves that are pushing into 2 different lanes. But is it enough to keep them in this to find a win?
Is it enough? Certainly we don't have that information yet. But what I can say, Achilles, that in that scenario where MVP could back off and pick up one objective uncontested, you wanted to go for the Baron because there was really no chance of Samsung, I believe, rushing down to the Elder Dragon and forcing it. MVP could have taken the Baron, and I think they would have been able to get to position to fight around the Elder. They seem to think that because Samsung had the Elder stacks, that would be what they would have preferred. But MVP get a 0-stack Elder as a trade for Samsung picking up a Baron when Samsung's 2 inhibitors were down. So there shouldn't have been a trade really in almost any scenario, and to trade disadvantageously is another problem for MVP. But it may not be the biggest of issues. They do have 2 inhibitors down. They have a very obvious line of attack straight to barrel down through bot lane. And Ruler doesn't have flash up, so could just be rinse and repeat for ADD, closing the distance.
I mean, he doesn't have anything up right now. Heal and flash both used in that last fight. It was not enough to keep up. See, this turret still very weakened here in the bottom side of the map, which means that MVP can take care of this rather swiftly. Maha pushing forward with little to no fear. Just take a little bit of damage there from Crown. So that Boss Bomb connects.
The moment they lost sidewave control, Samsung seemed to have had really no clue as to what to do. Team fighting with their comp against Janna is almost reliant on Max making a mistake like he did earlier, rather than necessarily there being a lot of outplay for Samsung. Look at Maha!
Yeah, just pushing in, just chunking out Crown, nearly taking him down in the 1v1 effectively. Third inhibitor will go down, and MVP going to be looking to maybe just close out the game right here, right now. Super Creeps pushing in on that mid wave. Top lane as well, already doubled up. Can they finish this out? Samsung, this is going to have to be one hell of a heroic defense if they want to bring themselves back from this, because they are on the brink of death.
Seems so easy for Maha to get shots on the Nexus turrets, and they go down so fast. Need another minion wave to make it happen.
There's 2 on the way, so not going to take too much longer. Super Creep's going to start coming down through the bottom lane as well, so MVP have everything that they can possibly want. The Dragon buff still there for a little bit longer. Going to be the engagement going through. They get the pop-up. There's going to be Maha going down. Can they follow up with more is going to be the question. Crown with the package ready to go. Does he want to go in? Does he see an opportunity? The answer is no. We'll just let these remaining members of MVP work their way out of the base. Samsung, they hold on. That was the pick that they needed ages ago.
That shouldn't have been possible given how much was up for MVP. We'll have to see a replay to see where the shielding went. Because remember, Orianna, Janna, I saw the Monsoon was used as well. Maha died, had cleanse, didn't get to use the Feather Stomp. Let's watch the replay. So Charmed.
Up. Oh, Boss Bomb lands right on top of it.
Basically, it's the 3 spells and not enough to use the shield there. Didn't actually use the Eye of the Storm shield max onto Maha, and also Maha didn't get to use Feather Stomp. So during 1 CC duration, it's one of those weird scenarios where as Maha, he had cleanse, doesn't need to go for, say, a QSS or a Mercurial Scimitar. You can overlap the CC as the Rakan and do some creative things. They made it happen that fight. But you don't think that MVP will be surprised a second time.
I mean, 3 inhibs down still. Top and mid should be coming back relatively shortly. But even then, they have that weakened Nexus turret. So MVP, 1-fight-1. I mean, even if they get 2 picks, if it's somebody like Crown or Ruler going down, that could just be the game. Going over to them here, but it is being delayed out from both sides. MVP were able to hold on for so long, get those 2 picks, transition them into the Barons. But now Samsung, they find their own as we push past 42 minutes.
And we've seen them come back in similar scenarios from bigger disadvantage. Against Everate Winners Game 1, there was a 13,000 gold lead for Everate, who tried to barrel down the mid lane with a Kassadin, and eventually Samsung won true. In this particular game, there's still an outside chance that with 3 inhibitors down. Okay, one's respawned, so they have a bit of a lifeline. MVP, they want to get their sidelines in order, but for now, they haven't been able to do that.
They have not, but they're pushing in yet again. They want to knock down both of these inhibitors just to keep that constant advantage pushing in. Crown will get rooted, has to flash away as Maha almost comes up with that solo kill. Now the Cataclysm down onto 3 members. Haru will drop out to keep himself alive as the redemption hits Cuvée. Down to about half HP, but he'll still be all right. Has the Guardian Angel, but Maha still in the fight, and he is just life-stealing his way back to full.
A lot of ultimates misused, though, from MVP. Cast down as well. That's why you see the
go in for
extension.
JJ. Grand entrance, finds a double pop-up. Feather Storm coming down as they get the root down onto Cuvée. Slices his way away. Maha is still firing off with these feathers, finding the hits, just chunking out the Renekton. And that is going to be the 2 inhibitors going down yet again. And MVP, seemingly content with this, will just peel back out of the base.
Yeah, that was the time for Samsung to try something with the ults misused from MVP, but not overlapping burst that time. No one dies on the side of MVP. That inhibitor you spoke about has gone down, and it feels like MVP are 1 push away from an unlikely Game 1 victory.
What do you do if you are Samsung Galaxy at this point? Baron getting ready to come up in a minute and 20, but with triple inhibitors dead, you have to expect that they're not really going to be able to leave their base without giving up perhaps that already weakened Nexus turret.
And now Maha has tweaked the item build and gone for Mercurial Scimitar.
Okay. He just outright bought that, selling the Rudan's Hurricane.
He's going to have Mercurial Scimitar. QSS is back up. Featherstorm soon to be up. He has a Mikhail's Crucible and effectively the shielding and peel of an Orianna and Janna in a fight. If he dies...
But with a locket on top of it.
Oh yeah, if he dies, that is, let's say, questionable. It's the nicest way I can say it.
I mean, really, at this point, if MVP loses the game, it's completely questionable. But Maha dying is pretty much the one way that that does happen.
He doesn't need the attack speed as much. That's why he can go Merc Scimitar, because he will get the 36% bonus attack speed from the Ardent Sensor.
Or JJ looking to find an entry from behind, but MVP, they see this Baron spawning in 20 seconds, and they want to go ahead and pick up their third of the game.
Should basically be free.
Or second of the game. Third of the game?
Third Baron.
Third of the game.
First one, well, first two from Pixoff Ruler, you'll remember.
I'm losing track. Things are going crazy. And then Samsung were able to trade the one for the Elder Dragon, and then this one.
The fourth Baron in the game.
Okay.
But third for MVP.
They're third.
Yep.
Glad we got there.
Maths is hard.
I would say it's less the math than more so just every crazy aspect of this game, just kind of throwing things into disarray. But Baron will go over. Bot inhib is respawned, but MVP, do they really even need that?
Look at the gold lead between Crown and Ian. Ian has been playing team fight Orianna. He is 245 CS behind Crown.
I mean,
245.
Double Flame Horizon, and Ian's still probably going to win this game.
Double Flame Horizon and a half.
Oh, geez, that is yep, that's pretty ridiculous. Crown's got to be just like, this team.
There's very little he can do on the Corki. You know, the Corki pick in the early game when Samsung was looking like it would be an inevitable game one victory. Could make a lot of value out of it, but now, even with Focus Fire, tricky to DPS through the front line of MVP with all their shielding. This is the tank meta before the tank meta, and just in a different way than I expected, Achilles.
Yeah. Well, he's got the package. I'm ready for some Mickey-esque antics here from Crown. He tries to poke out Cocoon, landing in onto Maha. Chain of Corruption down on the Beyond, but he'll get out of that one safely. Just body slams away.
Maha had to Mercurial Scimitar, so only cleanse available now.
Oh no. And a Mikhail's Crucible.
Yes.
And a Locket. And an Eye of the Storm.
It's very hard to create drama around there being ways for Maha to escape.
And a Redemption.
Yes.
And a Flash.
Command Protect.
And a heal.
Gragas cast defensively.
It just goes on and on.
The list is quite long.
Yep. All right, well, here we go. MVP going to be looking for the finish. Core JJ going in, gets the pop-up, but Maha still not threatened. Has a Featherstorm to get himself out of there. As Cube desperately tries to lock him down, but it's just not doing anything. Samsung have not lost any members yet. Cube almost loses out on that GA. Cure JJ dashing to the side, gets himself to safety, but now it's going to be the Nexus turrets under fire.
They just can't scratch
Baron
MVP.
Empowered minions coming through. Nexus now exposed at MVP. 47 minutes on the clock. It took a hell of a lot of time, but it seems like they've finally done it. They'll kill Ruler one last time for good measure. 10-9 at the end of it. One of the craziest back and forth games that we've seen, and MVP will finally pick up a win.
And it took our resident mad scientist support Max going for the Janna, which didn't look like it would get over the line in the early game or even get to this phase of the game. Hitting 5 to 6 items, having all the synergy of all the reworks to Ardent Sensor and the other shielding items, and basically by the end, if everything hit and there was free time for Samsung, they still couldn't really scratch the front line and certainly not assassinate the back line of Samsung, of MVP. Maha was eternal on the AD carry in this particular game. The Xayah was just living forever, and Samsung look a bit stumped, and maybe it's time to bring in ambition for game 2 and certainly make some adjustments in the ban phase, because 10th just beat first in game 1.
Absolutely crazy performance here for MVP. And honestly, the only way for Longzhu to take first place here today was if they beat Samsung, if they can have them suffer a loss, and Longzhu is able to 2-0 Everate, they could take over that first place spot. it still is going to be an uphill battle here for MVP. It's just game one, but it was a hell of a game from them. But can they replicate it is going to be the question.
Yeah, we never want to be facetious. We always want to say, look, okay, that's looking good, but it's still Samsung versus MVP. It looked for a time like it could change, but then we got to the phase where the Janna answered so cleanly the question Samsung were posing, and even though it was 250 CS extra for Crown in the mid lane, it might as well not have existed because it counted for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the Janna play from Max, the latter half of that game, fantastic, but also just Ruler's positioning, very uncharacteristic from him, getting himself caught out multiple times, transitioning into those Barons that allowed for MVP to take over the game. But that's just game one. This is still a best-of-3 series. Very well could go the distance and make it to game 3 if Samsung can fire back here in game 2. We'll see if their mental state got checked.